Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jesse Jarvis, and I was born July 13th, 1998. For those of us who weren't a part of the month, it was a pretty wild month in history, and the purpose of this speech today is to give you guys an idea of what it was like back in July 1998. So the political backdrop for the year 1998 was pretty crazy because the President Bill Clinton was under serious investigation for presidential misconduct, as we know, with the Monica Lewinsky case that actually had major breakthroughs during the month of July. But what was life like as an average American living in 1998? So during the year, the average house cost about $120,000, and a gallon of gas was about $1.29. So $1.29, 15, you only got like $20 to get to work. Nowadays, most cars, it takes like $40-50 to fill up, get yourself to work every week, you know. So the average pay for a man living in 1998 was about $559 with only a high school diploma, and women made about $396. Some lucrative middle-class professions mostly involved in the service industry, mostly involved protective services, including police officers, firefighters, security guards, detectives, and police chiefs. One of the professions that weren't in protective custody was flight attendants. So with nearing the year 2000, with the technological revolutions that came through, one may wonder how many people had access to a computer or even the internet in the year 1998. I'm sure we're all familiar with having the big block Dell computer that's no stranger to everybody's living room as the family home computer. Well, shockingly enough, only 46% of Americans had access to a computer in 1998, and only 26% had access to the internet at all. As students, we may wonder what education was like or how much college was in the year 1998. The average price for a 4-year with tuition, room, and board was about $11,888. And every 10 years, the price nearly doubles, or not doubles, it multiplies itself by time and a half. And so the rate of growth for the cost of private or secondary education is pretty crazy, and it's likely to keep going up. So student demographics in 1998, the percentage of Hispanic students had tripled in the last 20 years from the 1970s to the 1990s, standing about at 9%. The percentage of African American students was about 13%. White students made up about 71% of the college student population, and there's about 6% Asian or Pacific Islander students. So on average, upon graduation, students had about $13,000 of debt, and adjusted to inflation, that's about $26,000. And every single student didn't borrow, but about 70% of them did borrow. So about 70% of students were about $23,000, $24,000 in debt after graduation. And in 2021, the amount of debt that people have is nearly insurmountable, especially during the COVID pandemic. Some people feel like they can't get out of it. Some other notable things that happened in the month of July. At the start of the month of July in 1998, the NBA commenced a player lockout because they couldn't come to an agreement on how much to pay the players, which is so crazy to think about, as players like Steph Curry have recently been signed for $215 million over 5 years, and only 20 years ago they couldn't come to an agreement about pay. And the FIFA World Cup that year was won by France and held in France, and the cycling Tour de France was also won by a French man. Some popular birthdays in the month of July include Malia Obama, who was born on the 4th of July, funny enough. And on July 8th, Jaden Smith was born. As I mentioned at the start of the presentation, I was born on July 13th. For politics in the United States, there was a fair amount going on with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, but at the start of the month, Bill Clinton was in China talking politics with people in China. On July 1st, he was in Shanghai, and he was talking about economic liberalization and praising Shanghai and saying that the U.S. doesn't want to interfere with China's development. And then on July 3rd, he was in Hong Kong praising President Jiang Zemin, saying that he is a force for democracy in China. And then after he left Hong Kong that week, that's when the Monica Lewinsky Bill Clinton case blew up, as on July 9th, Monica Lewinsky decided to cooperate with the legality of the tapes of her phone conversations. That wasn't the intent of the phone tapes, but they were discovered as a result of them. And so they were discussing the legality to use those tapes in court against President Clinton for his misconduct. And so throughout the month, the U.S. Supreme Court was trying to subpoena the Secret Service and trying to get everyone to testify against the presidential misconduct. And they were kind of playing phone tag for the first half of the month. And then the last half of the month is when everyone started testifying on it. Bill Clinton's head secretary, the head of Secret Service, and even President Clinton himself voluntarily came in to testify on his misconduct. And the case ended up wrapping up at the start of September. It took the month of August to kind of close everything out, but everything was pretty hot during the month of July, and hopefully now you guys can see why. Thank you guys again for listening.